Hello and welcome to the Hey Boomer Show and happy Hanukkah. Today we're going to be talking about the older women's revolution. So let me start with a little history. The first attempt to organize a national women's movement for women's rights in the United States occurred in Seneca Falls. It was in July of 1848, and it was led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. It took another 52 years until 1920 to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. The second wave of the women's movement emerged in the 1960s with the Commission on the Status of Women, led by Eleanor Roosevelt, and the publishing of the book, The Feminine Mystique, by Betty Friedan. The report from the commission documented discrimination against women in virtually every aspect of American life. And Friedan's book highlighted the emotional and intellectual oppression that middle-class educated women were experienced because of limited life options. So is it time for a third women's revolution? A revolution of older women who society thinks should go quietly into the good night, but we know we are not done with what we want to contribute and what we are able to contribute? This is what we're going to talk about today with my guest, Dr. Sara Hart. My name is Wendy Green, and I am your host for Hey Boomer. In this episode, we are going to talk about the older women's revolution and where we are going with this. I am on a mission to support and inspire adults in their next act of life to find new beginnings, confront endings and transitions, and evolve into who they want to be. That mission is what fuels me and keeps me motivated. And I hope you find inspiration and motivation in what we talk about on Hey Boomer. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Rhodes Scholar for their support of Hey Boomer. Rhodes Scholar is the not-for-profit leader in educational travel for boomers and beyond, offering expert-led adventures to all 50 states and more than 100 countries. My favorite way to travel is with Rhodes Scholar, and you can find an amazing collection of educational adventures on their website. You can go to roadscholar.org/heyboomer and just explore what they have. And just to remind you, I'm hosting a trip to Costa Rica from June 2nd to the 10th with Rhodes Scholar. I would love to have you join me. So if you want more information about that, you can drop me an email at wendy@heyboomer.biz. I will send you all the information, what we're going to be doing and seeing. So, think about it. Come join us in June. So now it is my honor to bring Dr. Sara Hart onto the show. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Wendy.
It's so nice to have you today.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me give them a brief intro to your background. So Dr. Sara Hart is a lifelong advocate for social change and an inspirational, motivational speaker. She is passionate about PrimeSpark, an idea that became a movement to change the way our culture sees and treats senior women. As a speaker, Sara provides controversial, cutting-edge ideas in an interactive setting. She founded HeartCom, a consulting company, over 20 years ago, focusing on leadership development, coaching, and team building. She also coaches women who know things need to be different in our society and who value the support of a coach and a like-minded community. Sara lives in Los Altos, California with her cat, Mr. Boo. I have to meet your cat and introduce him to mine.
Oh, yes.
So, Sarah, you have a podcast and a movement called PrimeSpark. Where did that idea come from?
Oh, Wendy, I love to talk about that. Before I say that, may I just add to your introduction that in 1920, white women were given the right to vote.
Thank you, Sarah.
African American women, women of color, did not get the right to vote until, I don't know, 1964, something. So when we talk about that, I think it's important to highlight
Yeah, thank you for that.
the vote at that time. Yeah. PrimeSpark. Oh, wow. I had been doing this, that, and the other thing with my consulting company, Hartcom. And I realized at one point that I had been either a consultant or an employee in corporate America for over 40 years. That was enough. That was enough. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do now? And it occurred to me that what I want to do is work with and on behalf of older women. Now, this was sort of in the back of my mind. And then one day, I was sitting in a doctor's examining office. I was sitting on a metal chair. It was cold. I was waiting for the doctor, and I was waiting, and I was waiting. I got colder and colder. And finally, he came in, and he had a starched white jacket and dark glasses and gray hair. And he had an iPad or some kind of tablet. He didn't look at me. He looked at the tablet. And he said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, when I walk, the calves hurt on my legs." And he said, "Well, how far do you walk?" He never looked at me once, not once the entire time I was in that room. And I said, "Well, I like to walk as close to 10,000 steps a day as I can. I don't always get there, but I like it." And he said, "I have patients who can't walk to the front door and back to get their mail. What you need to do is find a path with benches." Oh, wrong thing to say to me.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I was just, I didn't say that, but I wish I had. "George, don't tell me to find a path with benches." Last year, I did the California AIDS Life Cycle Ride. It's a bicycle ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles, 545 miles. Don't tell me to find a path with benches.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I'd been in my 30s, would he have said, "Find a path with benches"? No. He would have helped me figure out what to do with my legs so they didn't hurt, so I could continue doing what I was doing was walking, but so I could continue doing whatever exercise. And so that catalyzed my desire to work with and on behalf of older women. And at that time, I was working with a coach, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And she said, when I said I wanted to work with older and on behalf of older women, she said, "Oh, your golden years."
Everybody's giving you feeding for your idea.
No, no. I mean, all of this was good in the sense that it fueled me and it's given me wonderful stories. But at the time, I was just, no. I said, I want to help older women find that spark deep inside that will ignite their way into the world with everything they have to give. Right now, in the prime of their lives, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, because that's a prime of our life anymore. And I thought, oh, Prime Spark. So that's what it was. It was not your golden years. It was Prime Spark. And that's where that all came from.
That's great. Those people were sent to you as messengers, Sarah, to get you going.
I think that's right. Well, at the time, I was livid, but in retrospect, I thought, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh. So how old were you when you did that bike ride?
Well, that's sort of a funny story in itself. I was 74.
Wow.
Um, so actually, it was 3 years ago because now I'm 77. But when I was in the doctor's office, it was a year or two ago.
Right, right.
And that I was at that time when I started training for it, I was 73, and I had been very cautious about saying what my age was because I was still doing consulting and
Hmm.
some in Silicon Valley, and you don't consult in Silicon Valley when you're 73, and so I just was very quiet about my age. But I opened the San Jose Mercury News one day, and there was my picture with the headline 73-year-old woman to do AIDS life cycle. Okay,
All right, it's out there.
okay, that's it. That's the end of that.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. Yeah, bikes and I don't do well together, so good for you. So you've talked about this reinvention a little bit. You know, you're from the employee to your own company, now podcast host and a motivator and inspirer of women. So, what do you think is some of the most important things to confront or to address when you're facing transitions?
I think three things, I guess. I think it's important to not know what's next
Hmm.
and to not pressure yourself to, I gotta know. Yeah, and you will if you just keep working with it. So it's okay when you first start getting that inkling. It's okay not to know. None of us knows immediately. Um, but secondly, I would say that don't jump into something until you're ready. Uh, I went through a major transition leaving corporate, and I wasn't sure at all what was next, but I was so ready that it
Hmm.
was it was scarier to think of staying than going. And I don't recommend you necessarily get to that point, but at some point you'll be ready. And the third point I would say is, and it's still scary.
It is. It is.
The transitions are very scary, and that's okay. That's okay. I mean, unknown is scary,
That's right.
but it doesn't mean we don't do it.
That's right. Sometimes sitting in the discomfort is where you need to be.
Yes.
And when you were starting to formulate this idea of the a prime spark, did you have any inkling that you were going to be doing a podcast?
No.
Had you
I
ever done anything like that before?
Well, a bit. I mean, for a year, a couple years ago, I had an online radio show, right? Radio show called PrimeSpark, and I loved it. I loved doing it, but it sort of ran its course. And then when podcasting didn't just come in, but I became aware of it, and I thought, oh, um, well, I really liked the radio show. Maybe I'd like to do podcasting, and I love to do it. I mean,
It's fun.
it's really fun.
It's fun. And you meet great people. Yeah. And you're on a lifelong learning transition as you go through it too.
Right. That's exactly right. It's learning from the people you're talking to, and it's a constant learning of technology because things keep changing all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, as a leader in the women's movement in the 60s and 70s, um, and now with the elder women's revolution, talk to me about what you think has changed, what progress we've made, and what still needs to be done.
Well, I think we've made a lot of progress since the 50s, 60s, 70s. Um, Women's role in society has changed. I mean, there's no questioning that. I think. Um, There was a very funny thing going around on the internet recently about, oh, this was an old ad. I don't know if it was really old, but it was made to look old. And it could have been a real ad because there were ads like this. There was a woman sitting on her knees at a Christmas tree, and she had her eyes closed and she was wishing, wishing, wishing. And her male partner behind her had placed under the tree her gift, which was a vacuum cleaner. And, uh, and
Yay.
the saying was something like, George spent the next several weeks in the hospital with multiple injuries. It's so funny. But that kind of thing was real. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, when we got television, we would watch Loretta Young um, twirl in the kitchen showing off her refrigerator. And I
Right.
remember, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So from all those days, we certainly have made a lot of changes. There's still a lot to be done. I think that three things jumped to my mind that definitely still need to be done. One, we need to have more women in higher levels in in all kinds of organization. We're doing better in government. We're doing better in corporations, but we're certainly not there yet. So we need to have more women in higher levels. We also finally need to get equal pay for equal work. Why is that a question in 2022?
Yeah.
And so we need equal pay for equal work. And we need affordable, top quality childcare. For many women, that is a real stumbling block. And for women who have to work in order to support their families, that is just so unequal and it's not fair. And so
So
we need better childcare. I mean, we need better childcare for all working women, but particularly for women who really don't have the means to hire top quality childcare.
yeah. Yeah. That's so difficult. I remember dealing with that. So the younger women now, I think, took for granted a lot of the changes that we had fought for until Roe v. Wade was overturned. So I think that was a wake up call for them.
Yes.
Um, are you finding ways to work with younger women also to spark this PrimeSpark revolution?
Oh, Wendy, that's a great question. I want to do that because for a lot of reasons. But if we're going to change how older women are seen and treated in our society, younger women have to be involved in it because they are at some point going to be older women. And so, for that reason, I really want them to be involved. I really want them to be involved because I think we've made a very difficult world for younger women. I think it's really hard. And I would like to um, provide some support and guidance and alleviate some of the difficulties if possible. And so what I'm just getting ready to start actually is what I'm calling a PrimeSpark co-mentoring circle.
Mm,
Um, and what I intend for that is to have older women and younger women work in together in pairs in co-mentoring because we have at least as much to learn from them as they
that's
have to
right.
learn from us.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping to do that fairly soon. We'll see. We'll see if it goes. Um, oh, I just wanted to say something and it went out of my mind. But anyway, yes, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I think that one of the real difficulties we have now is what we have that keeps being highlighted and made worse are the the difficulties between generations, and we need
Hmm.
really want to stop talking about Gen Xers and Zs, and we just are all who we are, and there's a
Right.
continuum of age, and it doesn't have slices. I mean, time doesn't have those kind of slices. So I would really like to do these co-mentoring circles so that both younger and older women can see we have a lot more in common than we knew.
We do, Sarah. In fact, that my show last week was all about we need to stop the shaming and blaming between the generations
Yes.
and find ways to. I mean, there is differences in the languages and differences in the, you know, Gen Z, my grandchildren's generation, does speak different language sometimes, and they text differently and all of that. But like you said, it's a co-mentoring. We can learn from them, they can learn from us, and break down those barriers. I love that idea. So let me know how I can support you on that one.
Oh, fantastic. I would love that, Wendy.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, talking about all of the work that we've done over the years for the women's movement, I also was very involved. There are times it gets very frustrating, right? I mean, we've worked so hard, and and then we get socked in the gut. So I'm curious what you do when you feel frustrated to kind of dig yourself out of that hole and get back up and go, no, we still have a lot to do.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think that for a lot of us, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was just a gut punch. I mean, I suppose I should have seen that coming, but until it got close to actually happening, I thought it never would. I just,
Right. Settled law. It was settled law, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. So that, and I just a couple of weeks ago saw the movie She Said, which is
Oh,
absolutely superb.
I haven't
And
seen that yet.
oh, you got to see it. And everybody who has any contact with a younger woman, if she will agree to go with you or just go, younger women need to see that movie. So I don't know, Wendy. Yes, I get very frustrated. I get, what a waste of time. I mean, you know what? And then I think about, well, now wait a minute. Look at the changes that have happened. Look at some of the good stuff that is happening now. And so if I, let myself feel really blah for a while, then I will gradually come back to an equilibrium because that's just sort of the way I'm made, I think. I also have a meditation practice. I don't know what I would do without it because it helps me stay, you know, this too will change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this too will change. But
Just
it's not
teach.
easy. I mean, for anybody who is involved at all, um, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And I think surrounding ourselves with people like you, with, our girlfriends and any organizations that we are involved in,
Yes,
um, definitely helps us get back on track. So
and
let's turn it around. What are
yes.
you excited about now, looking out into 2023?
Oof. I think one of the things I'm most excited about is I've been working with PrimeSpark now, going on 3 years because it was really 2020 when I don't have anything else to do. It was
That's right. You were locked up.
so even during the last like 2.5 to 3 years, there are there's a huge burgeoning number of people who are involved in anti-ageism. That wasn't true even 2.5, 3 years ago to the extent it is now.
Right.
There are so many books that are being written. You just go online. Now, I know some of it is because that's what I'm involved in and that's what I see. It's sort of like if you buy a red car, then when you go out, all you see are red cars. So I
Mhm.
understand that, but it's also accurate. It's also true. And so I think that the boomers, to use a generational term, are just absolutely not going to sit down and be treated like that doctor treated me.
That's
Um,
awful.
well, I mean, we're different. I mean,
Right.
look at us. We're different, and we're just not going to allow it. It's just not going to happen. And there's this huge bubble of people coming along, and they're just going to say, "No, this is who I am. Look at me. I'm vibrant. I'm alive. I'm not going to sit down and play whatever for the rest of my life unless I
Right.
really want to. And if somebody really wants to, then go ahead, sit down and play whatever. But I want people to actually have the choice and not think that's the only way ahead, because it's not. I mean, look around at the numbers of people who are thriving in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
That's right.
It's just going to get more so. So I find all of that really exciting and hopeful.
Well, and I find exciting one of the things that you have coming up in the beginning of 2023, and that's this women's conference. Tell us more about that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for asking me. Um, Conference is called Women Over 50, making the rest of your life the best of your life. Because I believe that. It's not just a saying for me. I believe it. Women I talk to who are over 50, I ask every single woman I interview, do you experience getting older? And she will say, well, yeah, in my body I do. But other than that, I feel better. I feel more me. I feel stronger. And so I believe the rest of your life can be the best of your life. And so we're having this conference. I've wanted to have this conference for a couple of years now, and we kept trying to have it. And just as we would get ready to go forward with it, there would be another huge surge, and everything would be shut down. And actually, we couldn't find a venue that was open to large groups. I don't know if that's true in all the country, but it's true in California. And so finally, sometime last year, I said, okay, we're going virtual because we're having this conference. This conference has to happen. I'm not saying it's the first conference for older women. I'm not saying that because the moment I say that, there'll be 5 emails saying, I had one in Kentucky, I had one in Florida. So I'm not saying that, but I haven't been able to find it. So I'm saying we are among the very first conferences for older women. And we have a wonderful lineup of speakers for keynotes. We have wonderful breakouts, and it will all be virtual. I know it would be fun to be together. I wish we could be together. But thank goodness for Zoom or whatever one uses, because at least we can see one another, we can talk, we can listen to good speakers. And I want everybody to go. I think you'll really love it. The early bird price ends December 31st. So that is a week and a half away. So you need to do it now. So please come and join us. We're going to
And
have
what is that price?
the early bird is 79 and the regular is 99.
I mean, it's an all day affair, right? Such a great price.
And if
And
some can't afford it, send me an email and we'll work it out. I don't want anybody not to be able to go because she can't afford it. So let me know because we'll work it out.
and what's the date, Sarah?
February 8th, Wednesday, February 8th from 9:30
Pacific.
Pacific time. And we're saying it's ending around 4:30 or 5, but the last thing we're doing is having an online party. So that will go as long as anybody wants to grab their beverage of choice and party with us.
So woohoo for you that you are like figuring out how to do this whole virtual conference. That's very impressive, Sarah.
Thank you. It's we're doing it. That's period. I just said, okay, this is it. We're doing this. I don't know how we're doing it, but we're doing it.
You're figuring it out. And so, yeah, hopefully everyone will attend because you told me about some of the speakers. I mean, some very well known people will be speakers. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty exciting too.
it's very exciting.
Yeah. Um, so, when you made the change from corporate to your own company and now to this, were there some lessons that you learned that you wish you had known at some point when you were making those changes?
I think a little bit of what I said before, that it's okay to be scared, Sarah.
Mm,
You
yeah.
don't have to have all this figured out. I didn't have it figured out. I resigned from a very good job, from a very good company after 20 years without having the vaguest idea what I was going to do. I just knew it was time to go. So I sold most of what I owned, put what was left in my car, and drove to San Francisco from the East Coast because I knew I wanted to live in San Francisco. And then I
Wow.
spent a year trying to decide what I wanted to do. Now, bless my company, they kept hiring me back as a consultant. So I had funding during that year. But I had no idea what I was going to do. And I finally realized what I wanted to do and I set about doing it. But what I learned was you don't need to know exactly what you're going to do. What you do need, and this is something I wish I had paid a bit more attention to, you do need to make sure you are sufficiently funded for your basic needs because you don't want to make a big leap and then have to live on credit cards because that's devastating and you don't want to start from that. So
Right.
um, I didn't have to do that because I did have this help, this backup from the company where I had worked. But I do know some people who have just gotten to the end and left whatever they were doing and without any kind of a plan at all. And that's not good because we don't make the best decisions when we're really, really scared. And you don't want to get really, really scared. So I think what I learned, one of the things I learned was it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know, but do have some kind of a plan to take care of yourself, basically, so that you don't get scared. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. And you're right. We don't make good decisions when we are
no,
scared.
no,
Yeah. Hmm. So we're heading into the new year, like I said.
yeah,
And, um, I do like a word of the year. In fact, I'm going to blog about that this year. And some people do resolutions. And I was wondering if you do either one or if you have another practice that you will take into 2023 with you.
Oh, Wendy, that's really interesting because I was just thinking about that last night. And I realized that I'm not going to make New Year's resolutions. I'm not going to do it because I never keep them.
Right.
I mean, literally one year I watched myself wake up on January 1st and find the piece of paper I'd written them on and cross them out. I literally did that. Other years, they've just sort of petered out. Like if you go to a gym, you watch that happen. It is so crowded the first week of January, and it gradually gets less crowded. You just wait until February, and everything will be back to normal. And
That's
so,
right.
so I decided I'm not going to make resolutions. I'm going to think about in what ways would my life be more satisfying to me in 2023.
I like that.
And what do I need to think about doing in order to, at the end of 2023, realize that my life has been more satisfying because I was able to da 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 da. I mean, I have a great life. And there's some things that I really would like to do differently. And so I'm gonna I'm gonna make it just easier. I'm not going to write it down. I'm not going well, I may write it down, but I'm not gonna write it down in terms of 2023 New Year's resolutions.
Right.
I'm gonna, if I write it down, be more just as in terms of a reminder. I like what I read the other day. Somebody suggested, oh, I'm not going to remember this exactly, but it was like writing a letter to yourself. Um,
Your
uh,
future self.
yeah, but it's like write it on December 1st, 2023, about what you've seen that was different during the year,
Okay.
and then hide it and take it out on December 31st, 2023. And I sort of like that. That seems like a gentle way of making
Yeah.
some suggestions for yourself.
And I like the word satisfied. How will I be satisfied? Because it doesn't have to be like this major overpowering like New Year's resolutions, I'm going to lose this much weight and work out this much, and because you're right, we don't live up to it. But that's what I like about the words. Like this year my word was acceptance and mastery. And I put them up on my board, and I could look at them every once in a while and go, okay, how am I doing on those?
That's good, Wendy. I like that.
Yeah.
Are
So
will you tell us your 2023 word, or are you going to wait to blog about it?
I'm going to wait to blog about it. And then yeah, encourage everybody to come up with their word and let's share them around. I know it's exciting.
Fun.
It's
I like
fun
that.
stuff. Thank you. So, Sarah, as you know, I do with Hey Boomer a lot of what you do with PrimeSpark, and that is to, inspire people over 55 to stay fully engaged, to recognize that we still have a lot to give. And I'm wondering if you have two or three takeaways that you would like to leave with the Hey Boomer audience and invite them to PrimeSpark too.
Yeah. See, one of the things that makes me positive is that you and I are doing such similar things. That's very exciting to me. I would say this sounds trite because it's so overused, but I do think it's important to really think about what is most important to me at this point in my life and going forward. And that might be really big deal stuff. I mean, it might be the climate is so important to me. So I really want to be involved in environmentalism. And maybe that's in your town. I mean, you don't have to go to Washington and start lobbying unless you want to, then go. But just what is most important and figure out how you're going to be involved in that going forward. So I think that. Secondly, if you feel you need support to do that, get it. I mean, there's groups, there's coaches. You can find a supportive friend, but be careful about people you know, because there are sometimes people who know us well don't want us to change. They really are comfortable with who we are and what we've been and how they've known us. So if you're going to talk to a trusted friend about this, make sure the person will support you in stepping out in whatever way you're dreaming, because that's not always the case. And you don't want somebody who's important to you talking you out of it. You want them talking you into it. So
Right.
that support somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, I would say, and realize that you are enough right now, just the way you are. The world desperately needs your skills and abilities and wisdom right now. Look at the world. The world needs our older women's wisdom. It needs you. And so step out with who you are, because you are enough.
you for that, Sarah. That was beautiful. And I second that. You are enough, and ask for help when you need it. That's beautiful. Thank you. So let me tell people how they can find you besides the women's conference. So if you have questions for Sarah, you can email her directly at sarahhart@heartcom.com. And Hart is H-A-R-T, Heartcom, and Sara Hart. And you can find her website and her blogs and her speaking opportunities and her podcast and everything else she's doing at PrimeSpark Women, WOMEN, PrimeSparkWomen.com. And take advantage of this conference that Sarah has coming up. I hope to be there. I hope to see all of the Hey Boomer audience there. WomenOver50conference.com. And I'm telling you, if Sarah's behind it, it's going to be remarkable. So join it.
Yes, please do. And one more thing I would like to say, Wendy, we even have some PrimeSpark greeting cards that are available, and those are on the PrimeSpark website also. It's a terrific gift for a woman over 50. They champion older women rather than make fun of us.
Nice.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah. So let me just ask you all to recommend to your friends and family that they subscribe to Hey Boomer. They can find all of the podcasts there. They can get our newsletter of what we have going on. So that's email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz. Also, if you want more information about the Costa Rica trip, Sarah, think about coming to Costa Rica with us.
I am thinking about that, Wendy.
It's going to be so fun. So email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz and check out all the other trips that Road Scholar offers. In fact, some of them you don't even have to go anywhere. They're virtual trips. So you can go to road, scholar.org/heyboomer and check those out. So let me tell you all, this is my last show for 2022. I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks thinking about my word, organizing my office, planning for next year. And I hope that you find the people that you love and the people who love you to spend this holiday with and have a wonderful holiday season. And I will be back on Monday, January 9th. Golly, January. With Joe Alaria. And Joe is a financial planner. He has some interesting ideas about living a life of financial fulfillment in retirement. Things like having your money work for you, giving to causes. What do you want? What do you think about retirement? So it's just some important questions to think about. And I like to leave you with the belief that we can all live with passion, live with relevance, and live with courage. And we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. My name is Wendy Green with Sara Hart, and this has been Hey Boomer.